In a previous video I mentioned that Nier Automata was a contender for Game of the Year in 2017, or as it was known in my circles, the best year for gamers ever. Which is crazy when you realise that Nier Automata is the third game in a series that began with a Dynasty Warriors clone with dragons that canonically ends with you and Falcor being shot down by F-15s and spreading a deadly plague across humanity. Weirdly relevant to today, I know. To say these games are weird is underselling them. So a bit of background for Nier Automata. Thousands of years from now, aliens invade Earth and kick humanity's asses so much that they're forced to say screw this and flee to the moon. Not wanting to be branded with that pussy shit, the human race constructs androids clad in a Gucci winter collection to head back to Earth and liberate it while humans delegate from the moon like an overbearing parent. Seeking to not be one-upped, the aliens construct machines, the Pepsi to the androids' Coke, and create a stalemate between humanity and the aliens, as neither force can truly be exhausted or truly destroyed. You play as part-time underwear model, full-time waifu material 2B, and her partner 9S, as they struggle to end the conflict between androids and machines and retake the Earth for humanity. And did you get all that? Great, because much like the game, I'm going to tell you to forget about all of that, because it's not what this game is actually about.
So that was a fucking lie.
No, what Nier Automata is really about is discovering that there is no god, that all we can do is repeat the same mistakes of the past, and that we may all be better off dead.
That's so very, very sad.
Nier Automobile and the other Nier games in general subscribe to the idea of nihilism. However, Nier Automata goes the extra philosophical mile by not only name-dropping Nietzsche, but by including cameos of other famed philosophers, like Engels, de Beauvoir, Kierkegaard, and Pascal to name a few. If you don't know who any of these people are, imagine them as essentially the Avengers, but way more depressing. So essentially the Zack Snyder Justice League with less toned bods.
Why did you say that name?
Now, if you don't think that's possible, then I invite you to examine the very first line spoken in the game.
I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
This very directly harkens to Frederick I'm goth now mom Nietzsche's famous quote, God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. Now, Nietzsche wasn't trying to write a Papa Roach song. He was describing God being dead to society rather than pulling a Final Fantasy and literally killing God. The main difference is that 2B's deities aren't incorporeal as the divine powers Nietzsche referred to. Humanity literally resides in a realm above, and the androids were created in their image before being cast out from humanity's safe haven to do their creator's works on Earth. Hell, they're even given a mantra that sounds eerily similar to something a Christian knight of the Crusades would spout. Now, you may be asking yourself if there's any real difference between machines and androids, and conceptually, no there isn't. Both are mass-produced and nearly, see what I did there, endless in number. Whether by design or by nature, both androids and machines become self-aware and gain individuality, a fact the androids deny the machines despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
They don't have any feelings. They're just imitating.
Ah, dick move, bro. The only major difference is that androids clearly present a gender. The machines don't. Until they do. Now, this is very much a conscious decision. The androids are all hot as fuck, because the game wants you to fall in love with them any way it can. It's very much the same way as the movie Starship Troopers, a film you now all have to watch. Automata uses sexual exploitation very much the same way. It's much easier to root for the sexy androids that appear on the cover of Vogue, whereas the machines are very much inhuman visually, which makes it harder to empathize with them. The real whammy comes at the halfway point when you discover the aliens you've been fighting against have been dead for hundreds of years. Furthermore, they were killed by the machines due to machines resenting their creators. Where have I heard that one before? The machines became sick of the aliens' dogmatic nature and removed their gods entirely. The problem was, the machines had no direction now. They had no intrinsic purpose. So what do? The answer? Make every human mistake imaginable.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Let's take a look at some examples. The desert machines sought meaning in procreation, but the rub is, it's pretty much all they do all day. Also, they don't exactly have USB keys for those ports, if you catch my drift, so they can't actually reproduce. Okay, then I guess they can't. The second major machines element you come across is the theme park, where the de facto leader Simone places an emphasis on love and beauty, which leads her to cannibalize other androids and machines to make herself more beautiful, mirroring the obsession of real-life serial killer Elizabeth Baltroy. The Forest Kingdom created an order of knights to protect their infant king. Their former leader transferred into an infant's body, who can't issue them orders or commands, so they wait for him to grow and mature, not of course realizing that that is impossible for him, a robot, and when assassinated by swimsuit-clad A2, the knights launch into a murderous frenzy in order to avenge him, rather than, I don't know, putting his mind in another machine, like they did last time. The closer machines become to humanity, the more they themselves stagnate. They become so single-minded in their core ideal that it leads to their ruin. But what about Pascal? Those who have played Nier Automata will know that in between the Fairground and Forest Kingdom there's another machine settlement, led by Pascal, who created a pacifist society that abhors violence and uses human text to educate themselves. Without a doubt, he has the highest functioning and most realized settlement. Nothing bad could possibly happen to these guys.
He's already dead.
Yeah, even someone as admirable as Pascal is too married to his ideals of peace, and as such, when a virus infects half the machines in the camp, the other half is completely unable to defend themselves. They're only saved by the intervention of A2. Things only get worse when the remaining survivors are set upon by another faction of murderous machines, forcing Pascal to forego pacifism and fight. The children decide to take their own lives rather than inflict or suffer pain, as they're so married to the ideals of non-violence. Having lost everything, Pascal begs you to erase his memory of everything or to kill him. Either option isn't really great, as if you spare him, Pascal returns to his original settlement bound to start down the same exact path, doomed to repeat the exact same thing. But what about androids? They don't have it much better. Much like the machines, androids are beholden to an unchanging higher power. I mean, for a game set thousands of years in the future, mankind clearly hasn't advanced too much. The city ruins that remain don't look wildly different to the architecture of today. The streets are lined with cars and trucks that still have wheels and engines and don't look anything like out of the Jetsons. Sure, they created androids with emotions in the moon base, but hell, if the machines evolved to have emotions independently, why couldn't the androids? I don't know about you, but I don't really see much point in creating killing machines that can feel doubt and despair. I mean, what is this, Neon Genesis Evangelion? But probably the greatest similarity between the androids and machines is shortly after 9S rejoins 2B on your second playthrough. You'll discover that humanity only uploaded their minds to the moon. Humankind is now extinct. A secret few in Yorha know, meaning the androids are fighting for a cause that no longer exists. But why would Yorha perpetuate the lie that humans are still alive?
Mass hysteria!
But I mean, how bad could it be if 9S and 2B find out? They've access to all of human history. They've seen how bad it can be to devote yourself to a singular ideal. Surely they won't fall to the same folly as the machines.
I'll kill you!
You let me down, man. I vouched for you, and you let me down.
One of the things I've only really touched on is the cyclical nature of Nier Automata. I mean, this game has an ending for every letter in the alphabet, so it clearly wants you to play it over and over again, but in order to actually progress the story, you have to play through the same scenario twice. Once as 2B and then again as 9S. Now, making you repeat the same story with little deviation from a gameplay perspective isn't good. Looking at you, visual novels! However, in terms of Nier Automata's narrative, it's smarter than combining chocolate and peanut butter to make a delicious Reese's peanut butter cup. Not only does it recontextualize all the violence from the 2B playthrough with the knowledge of all the thinking and feeling individuals you've murdered, it makes you feel even worse because the 9S playthrough opens with this.
Brother, please start moving. Brother.
In a masterstroke of genius, it also forces you into the same violent cycle as the androids, being forced to kill machines and suffer in order to progress in this life. But more importantly, upon revisiting Nier Auto mechanics for this video, I noticed eerie similarities between 2B and Adam, as well as 9S and Eve. Adam and Eve are a pair almost as inseparable as 2B and 9S, and are basically the machine messiahs who search for meaning in a world without their gods. Adam, however, decides that the only reason to live is to die, which is interesting as 2B's name is clearly a reference to the Shakespeare play Hamlet. And as Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer puts it,
Hamlet to me. And Hamlet had always been this great play with big themes and all this complexity. And he was just like, no, it's just about a teenager who's wondering if he should kill himself because he finally realized that the world is totally messed up. That's it.
When considering existence, death is the ultimate conclusion Adam and 2B come to. By dying, Adam separates himself from machines and becomes more akin to his gods, the aliens who suffer irreversible death unlike machines, which suffer an endless existence. 2B, on the other hand, is revealed to actually be an assassin with one target, 9S. This is because 9S has discovered humanity's death dozens of times, and in order to cover that up, 2B is forced to kill 9S over and over again. His memory is reset and 2B begins the cycle of killing her friend again from the start. It also doesn't help that every time 9S befriends and falls in love with 2B, and in some instances sacrifices his life for hers. Death is 2B's only escape from this cycle, so much like Adam, she openly accepts it in order for 9S to live. This of course brings us to Eve and 9S, both of whom could be said to live for their partners. Without anything to live for, Eve and 9S decide to hit the reset button on the world in the most violent way possible. Ultimately, this puts them directly back into the cycle of violence, which leads to their deaths. So you could read it that much like their partners, they crave death, but are going about it in a much more indirect method. I mean, irregardless of who you choose in the final fight, 9S dies in some regard. So ultimately, when all is said and done, what are we left with? Nier Automata makes you kill, suffer, die, and ultimately shows it's all for nothing, and how humanity corrupts and destroys everything it's involved in. After you've witnessed the heartbreak of the Nier endings, you're given an option to fight the credits of the game. I said this was a weird game up top. This bit is hard, impossibly so, and the game asks you to give up over and over again. But if you refuse and ask for help, the most amazing thing happens. Other players come to aid you, and the section is a cakewalk because of them. Completing it gives you access to the true ending, where we see the pods, the most emotionless characters in the game, have gained sentience, and decided to give 2B and 9S another chance, completely aware they may make the same mistake again. The difference is the pods aren't putting their faith in governments or creators, but people, which seems to be the final message of the game, as the only way you're likely going to see this ending is because of other people who, by the way, sacrificed their saves to help you. They erased their own achievements so you could have closure. You'll never know who they really are, and they won't really know if they helped you or anyone else. Plus, there's no proof these players beat the game anymore, meaning that they'll have to play through it again, make the same mistakes again, but ultimately be presented with the choice to be kind again. Nier Automata isn't wholeheartedly condemning establishments like religion and governments, but asks you to believe in the people in them more than the establishments itself. I mean, look at the town of just androids not connected to Yorha. They survived through all these world-ending events by just looking out for one another. As did Pascal's, but you know, better than that one? Nier shows you the worst it can of humanity and ultimately asks you not to despair. That even though you'll make mistakes, struggle, do things you'll regret, and even one day forget about all this and do it all over again, at the end of the day you can offer someone a simple kindness and take solace in the fact that there are others out there going through the same thing. There's always a chance to offer someone the most fleeting gestures, and it can make all the difference in overcoming this hardship. But what do you guys think? Am I reaching, or did it strike a chord with you guys? Did I miss any other references, or maybe there's a game that delivers Nier's message a little better? Let me know in the comments below. Also, big thank you to Hilixel on Twitter and Instagram for letting me feature her amazing art you've seen throughout this video. I'll link to her Patreon down below. She's amazing. You'll love her stuff. It's all G, man. Give the video a like or dislike depending on your mood. Subscribe to my channel to get 50% off my OnlyFans for the first 3 months. But more importantly than all of that, this robot lady got an ass and titties that won't quit.
Had dumps like a truck.